Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. In this episode, we will delve into the story of Ghee Crimson. The birth of Primordial Red was somewhat coincidental. Creator god Veldanava, aiming to reshape the world more swiftly, created the 7 angels of origin within the great Holy Spirit of Light to aid him. Concurrently, as shadowy counterparts within the great Holy Spirit of Darkness, 7 primordial demons came into existence. Primordial Red, the oldest among them, led the demons as their sovereign, wielding his power at will. To him, even the other primordial demons from the darkness were no different from common demons. Thus, when Primordial Green and Primordial Blue jointly challenged him, he dispatched them with ease as if they were mere child's play. Primordial demons were immortal beings, but if their cores were shattered, they were resurrected as subordinates to the victor. After Primordial Blue and Green became subordinates of Primordial Red, the remaining 4 primordial demons were left in a state of tension. Among these 4, Primordial Black constantly posed a challenge to Primordial Red. Their battles for supremacy ended in stalemates, leading Red to recognize Black as a worthy rival. However, not long after Primordial Red had taken Blue and Green under his wing, he was summoned to the Central World by the High Human Emperor Jahil of the Super Sorcerer Empire. The Central World, being a semi-material realm, posed a significant energy drain for Primordial Red, a spiritual life form without a physical body. His power from the Netherworld was limited here, reducing him to the strength of an archdemon. Yet, even with diminished power, Primordial Red found this new world intriguing and agreed to the arrogant Jahil's request. To unify the world under the Super Sorcerer Empire, he unleashed nuclear magic Death Break, a wide-reaching spell capable of annihilating souls, reducing the rival nation of over 1 million people to a city of death in an instant. The century-long war came to an abrupt end with the arrival of Primordial Red. After completing what seemed an insignificant task, Primordial Red noticed an intriguing change. The souls that survived his spell began to converge towards him, gradually awakening his power. These 1,000,000 corpses also served as a foundation for his incarnation. After harvesting 10,000 souls, racial restrictions were lifted, and Primordial Red evolved from an archdemon to a demon peer, marking the birth of the world's first awakened demon lord. Despite this transformation, Primordial Red's power was still a mere fraction of his strength in the Netherworld. Curious about the effect of gathering more souls, Primordial Red decided to conduct an experiment. He returned to the Super Sorcerer Empire that had summoned him and slaughtered anyone in sight. The screams of humans suited him as a name. Thus, the name Ghee was first uttered in this world. A dramatic shift occurred with this naming. Ghee became a devil lord, regaining all his power from the Netherworld. However, further killings brought no change, and realizing the futility of his actions, Ghee swiftly summoned his subordinates, Primordial Blue and Green, and ordered the complete destruction of the Super Sorcerer Empire. The emperor who had summoned Ghee, Jahil, was brutally killed by the demons. Thus, on that day, tens of thousands years ago, the largest human empire was erased from the continent. Ghee, now awakened and named, was in good mood, granting the honor of incarnation and souls to Primordial Blue and Green. Surprisingly, they did not evolve like Ghee did. To endow these 2 primordial demons with the power befitting his subordinates, Ghee gave them names: Primordial Blue Rain and Primordial Green Misery. This marked Ghee's first appearance in human history. Since then, Ghee had roamed the world, with Misery and Rain always by his side, serving him diligently as versatile maids. In this vibrant world, Ghee found pleasures utterly distinct from his days engrossed in battle. Cuisine, music, performing arts, and dance endlessly fascinated him. In the Netherworld, the weak were culled, and races other than demons were expelled. However, in this world, the weak had their place. Ghee found humans to be a mix of folly and wisdom, too diverse to generalize. During this era, Ghee was exceptionally gentle with humans. As a bringer of justice, he expelled evil beasts threatening various lands and eliminated malevolent mages. His many good deeds spread far and wide in human society, evolving into the myths and legends known today. Until one day, Ghee encountered Veldanava. As told in episode 56, Ghee, never doubting his own supremacy, challenged Veldanava. Naturally, Ghee's attack didn't land, and instead, Veldanava knocked him down with a single blow, rendering Ghee incapable of retaliating. Primordial demons' cores, if destroyed, would subject them to become subordinates to their conqueror, but Ghee's pride wouldn't allow such a fate. He proudly requested Veldanava to annihilate him completely. However, Veldanava merely offered a bitter smile, expressing his love for all his creations and delighting in the emergence of a being capable of withstanding his single strike. Far from killing Ghee, Veldanava entrusted him to act as the world's mediator, to help maintain balance and prevent humanity from self-destructing through internal conflicts. Ghee resolved to become a demon lord, reigning supreme and instilling fear in humans. He would chastise humanity on Veldanava's behalf if they grew arrogant and warred amongst themselves. Hearing Ghee's proclamation, Veldanava laughed. Concurrently, Ghee's heart took form, and he acquired the unique skill Pride. Thus, Ghee and Veldanava acknowledged each other as equals and became friends. Following this pact, Ghee embarked on his role as a demon lord, exterminating nations that caught his eye, unleashing his demonic minions to instill a measured terror in humanity. This tension fostered a sense of unity among human societies. During this period, Ghee also battled the evil god Velzard at Veldanava's request. Velzard's combat instincts were formidable. Ghee, alongside Feldway and the other 7 angels of origin, engaged in a 3-month-long battle with Velzard, who eventually fled to the otherworld. The fight turned the land of the former Super Sorcerer Empire into a vast wasteland. Seeing the ravaged terrain, Ghee felt it was destiny and decided to make it his domain. It was then that a white true dragon challenged Ghee. The challenger was Veldanava's younger sister, Frost Dragon Velzard, who possessed the second highest magical capacity after Veldanava. Velzard declared her non-acceptance of Ghee, despite her brother's approval. After 3 days of inconclusive fighting, Velzard was baffled, unable to comprehend how Ghee, with only a unique skill, could match her, a holder of an ultimate skill. Indeed, Ghee, possessing the unique skill Pride, theoretically shouldn't have been able to stand against Frost Dragon Velzard, who wielded the ultimate skill Lord of Patience. Ghee, still harboring a youthful arrogance, claimed his strength as the reason. However, Velzard suggested that Veldanava's decision to grant her an ultimate skill and not Ghee indicated her greater usefulness. Driven by jealousy and a desire for her brother's approval, Velzard challenged Ghee, only to be met with a reality different from her expectations. Ghee arrogantly declared that he had refused the power offered by Veldanava, seeing themselves as equals, preferring to attain power on his own terms. The confrontation with Velzard became a catalyst for Ghee, transforming his unique skill Pride into the ultimate skill Lord of Pride. Velzard was left speechless by the transformation, realizing why her brother held Ghee in such high regard. She decided to observe Ghee further, to see how fully he could live out his creed. Following this, Velzard joined Ghee's journey, marking the beginning of their companionship. The battle's influence turned the northern continent they resided on into an uninhabitable frozen land, surrounded by ice due to Velzard's leaked magicules, adding a layer of beauty to the landscape. Ghee was indifferent to the transformation of the land into ice and snow, but noted Velzard's true dragon form as inconvenient for castle life. Velzard easily shifted into her human form, choosing to maintain a somewhat youthful appearance. This inadvertently protected the land with her leaked aura, deterring even strong monsters from nearing. Velzard's youthful form wasn't particularly to Ghee's taste, and though she outwardly complained about Ghee, she held a deep affection for him, secretly vowing to win his love with her charms someday. Centuries of monotony passed until Ghee's castle received visitors. A trio ventured into the impenetrable cold, led by a blonde youth proclaiming himself Rudra, the crown prince of the Nazca kingdom and a hero of justice intent on vanquishing the evil demon lord and claiming the legendary treasures. Rudra's unguarded, bandit-like speech piqued Ghee's interest. The 2 women with Rudra, his sister Lucia and the scorched dragon Velgrind, mockingly suggested Rudra sounded more like a demon lord, openly revealing his greed for treasures. This encounter introduced Ghee to Rudra and Velgrind, setting the stage for the complex relationships and adventures that would unfold. In Ghee's presence, the trio casually conversed among themselves, seemingly indifferent to his existence. Their ability to reach Ghee, however, implied they had bested misery and rain, suggesting their formidable strength. Ghee, curious about the title of hero mentioned by Rudra, was intrigued to learn what it truly meant. Rudra, with a sly grin, proclaimed himself the strongest, revealing his intent not so much to defeat Ghee but to seize his treasures. Ghee found this honesty and carefreeness refreshing. Thus, the battle commenced. Observing Rudra's attack, Ghee noted it as a mere probing strike, not full-fledged effort, which irked him. Deciding to target Rudra's expensive-looking armor, Ghee skillfully dodged the incoming attack and retaliated with a kick that shattered Rudra's magical armor. Rudra was near tears, lamenting the loss of armor funded by his nation's whole year budget. Lucia could only watch her brother's folly in dismay. As Ghee prepared for another attack, planning to break Rudra's sword next, Lucia unleashed an unexpected spell, Holy Blade, which imbued Rudra's sword with dazzling light capable of breaching Ghee's barrier. Ghee's delight only grew. Rudra started to attack more seriously, with a markedly different assault. Ghee, in turn, drew his beloved sword Azura, prompting Rudra to complain about the Demon Lord's use of weapons. Ghee, perplexed by Rudra's notion that Demon Lords shouldn't wield weapons, humorously suggested Rudra take pride in forcing him to arm himself. Hearing Ghee's praise, Rudra was secretly eager to hear more. Ghee, amused and pleased, acknowledged Rudra by name, promising to remember him. Rudra, buoyed by the acknowledgement, insisted on knowing the Demon Lord's name. Upon learning it was Ghee, Rudra paused, finding the name oddly informal and lacking a last name, which he deemed unsuitable for his heroic tales in the future books. Rudra halted the fight, proposing to give Ghee a last name, while Ghee, intrigued, watched the trio huddle and discuss animatedly. Rudra suggested the name Cardinal for the Demon Lord, citing the beauty of his red hair. However, Velgrind strongly objected, claiming the color as her exclusive trait. Rudra pointed out Velgrind's peculiar concern since her hair was obviously blue, to which she replied she had changed it to blue because Rudra liked the color. Lucia teased her brother for his foolishness, predicting Velgrind would eventually leave him. Velgrind assured she would never abandon Rudra, who, feeling relieved, then proposed Crimson as a more fitting name. Despite the potential panic among humans over a hero naming a demon lord, Rudra felt it would be fine as long as no one spoke of it. The trio's interaction deepened Ghee's impression of Rudra as an exceptionally carefree individual. Rudra loudly declared that from that day forward, Ghee would be known as Ghee Crimson. In that instant, Rudra lost consciousness. Despite knowing the taboo of naming monsters, Rudra recklessly reasoned it would be safe since Ghee was a hostile demon lord, leading to his unfortunate state. Without using magicule but expending a significant amount of divine power, Rudra nearly ended up in the underworld. Upon waking, he faced the fury of his sister, Lucia, and his lover, Velgrind, as if visiting the underworld again. This marked the beginning of a unique bond between Rudra and Ghee. After Rudra's recovery, the two engaged in numerous duels, never managing to decide a victor. Hero Rudra, with his pinnacle of technical skill, and Demon Lord Ghee, unmatched in strength, fascinated the three women, Lucia, Velgrind, and Velzard, who watched their battles. The two maids took care of everyone and tidied up after the fights. This routine became their daily life, greeting each other with combat, followed by exhaustion and bickering. Ghee had long recognized Rudra's worth, finding joy in a rival who matched him in battle. As their fights progressed and Ghee became more adept at controlling his power, reducing the gap in skill, he began to gain the upper hand and could have won. However, Ghee chose not to. Over time, he found himself looking forward to draws in their duels. Ghee questioned Rudra why he didn't kill him from the start, believing Rudra had a significant chance of winning if he had fought with all his might instead of naming Ghee. This arrogance puzzled Ghee, as he couldn't comprehend or accept it. Rudra laughed it off, explaining that defeating Ghee wasn't his goal. he sought Ghee's acknowledgement and reformation to fulfill a promise made with his master, Veldanava. Ghee retorted that Veldanava had tasked him with preventing someone foolish like Rudra from conquering the world. Rudra then revealed that it was Veldanava's wish for him to challenge Ghee and earn his recognition. Ghee realized Veldanava had cleverly passed the troublesome Rudra onto him. Rudra's admission that he initially couldn't control the ultimate skill Lord of Justice, managing only about 10 seconds even now, shocked Ghee. Rudra clarified that Lord of Justice was borrowed from Veldanava, and what he gained was ultimate skill Lord of Oath under the help of Veldanava, featuring dispelling evil and protection abilities. Unlike the dominative power of Lord of Justice, which suits a sovereign, Rudra preferred not to exploit it, sustaining thus far with minimal use. Ghee felt delighted by this revelation, yet shocked by Rudra's strength to fight with him for such a long time without using his ultimate skill, anticipating more battles with Rudra. Rudra explained that the more he dominated with Lord of Justice, the stronger he would become, a prospect Ghee eagerly awaited. Rudra had no interest in dominating others, but circumstances often veer unexpectedly. As mentioned in episode 56, Veldanava fell in love with Rudra's sister Lucia, leading to a union that resulted in their child Milim. This joyous event paradoxically led to Veldanava losing his powers, becoming almost human. This situation troubled both Ghee and Rudra, with Rudra expressing doubts about continuing their engagements. Both sighed at the inevitability. Ghee vowed to maintain the world's balance as the Demon Lord, honoring his pact with Veldanava. Rudra, looking determined, admitted his reluctance to use Lord of Justice but recognized the necessity to strengthen his forces and establish a unified ideal world to fulfill his dream and promise to Veldanava, especially considering Veldanava's now finite lifespan. At this point, Rudra held the belief that humanity could unite, that individuals with differing perspectives could coexist through mutual respect. He argued that the misuse of force by various races and nations led to war, but unification could allow for conflicts to be resolved through negotiation. Ghee, however, disagreed, pointing out that humans, being intelligent, often worry about the future and accumulate wealth to prepare for various eventualities, a fundamental human instinct. He remarked that Rudra's dream was merely a fantasy. Ghee offered to assist Rudra by punishing those who threatened the world, suggesting that their souls could be sent to hell for a chance at redemption through suffering. Rudra looked at Ghee seriously, clarifying that his goal wasn't to become a great ruler but to see everyone smile, believing that forming a unified nation was a necessary step towards that dream. Ghee, taken aback, shook his head in disbelief, recognizing that his words alone wouldn't sway Rudra from his path. As the world's mediator, Ghee's duty was to maintain balance, naturally conflicting with Rudra's vision of a unified world. It was then that Ghee and Rudra agreed on a game, the details of which were elaborated in our episode 32 and won't be repeated here. It's worth noting that Rudra mistakenly shouldered the burden of human happiness alone, including his sister Lucia's happiness, concerns about Veldanava, and even Milim's joy. With Veldanava's lifespan waning, Rudra felt increasingly pressured by time. However, the subsequent deaths of Veldanava and Lucia were the final straw for Rudra, crumbling his dream. Losing the beings he had promised to protect and the creator deity of their world, Rudra essentially killed his own spirit, leaving behind a purposeless dream. Thus, achieving victory in the game against Ghee became the sole validation Rudra clung to. Then, a significant event unfolded with Milim Nava. As a child who lost her parents, Milim was unaware of her blood connection to Rudra. In her eyes, her pet and guardian dragon was her soul family, yet this cherished companion perished due to the schemes of the Elven Kingdom. Overcome with grief, Milim lost control over her power, intent on destroying everything in her sight. Ghee, in collaboration with Ramiris, managed to restore Milim's sanity, resulting in Ramiris's descent into becoming a demon lord. Thus, Milim and Ramiris formally joined the ranks of the demon lords. After this incident, Ghee sought out Rudra, who had undergone a change in personality. Confronted with the event involving Milim, Rudra simply stated he would not abandon his quest for conquering other nations, as doing so would render all prior sacrifices meaningless. Ghee foresaw the great misfortune that might eventually consume Rudra. However, as a close friend, Ghee could only try to delay such a fate. And so, the game continued. Each reincarnation drained Rudra's soul, gradually stripping him of his hero status and his unique skill, the Chosen One. Slowly, a limit approached. Unbeknownst to Wen, Rudra's soul was eroded, losing its original ideals and resorting to any means necessary to defeat Ghee, which only led to more bloodshed, exactly as Ghee had predicted. Finally, that day arrived. Ghee, adhering to the rules, decided to bet on the last possibility, placing his final judgment on Rimuru, his most unpredictable and hopeful chess piece. Originally, Ghee intended to take action himself, but until the very end, he adhered to the pact with Rudra. The result was the disappearance of his distant friend's presence. Ghee harbored no regrets or sorrow, only mourning for his close friend. He murmured silently, unaware of the tears tracing his cheeks, merely praying silently for his friend's peace. However, Rimuru indeed brought a miracle, as we all know, in the form of Masayuki. Thus, the game that spanned nearly 10,000 years between Ghee and Rudra came to an end. Ghee maintained his customary, purposeless smile, but his heart sank into sorrow. Unbeknownst to him, a pair of cold eyes observed him, the corners of the lips curling into a slight, twisted smile. Alright, that's all for this video. The Empire War arc has finally concluded, spanning from episode 29 to 72, taking a total of 43 episodes and 6 months to complete. I hope everyone enjoyed this series and will share it with friends to bring more awareness to the TenSura series. Volume 17 of TenSura includes some supplementary content, such as Velgrin's journey in search of Rudra's soul fragments, the underworld organization of Mal Mal, and the monologue of Primordial Blue Rain. In the next episode, we will focus on the story of Primordial Blue Rain. From her perspective, we will learn more about the background stories of the TenSura world and her stories with various demon lords. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.